Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, I step back into the AFL fantasy team previews with the Essendon Bombers, and this one I'm sort of going to walk you through what I'm looking for when I do my reviews or sort of previews, and how I sort of gather my data and look at and what I look at, etc. As I think a lot of people sort of wonder how or don't do their pre-season reviews or something like that, as well as what you probably could do, and what sort of I look at when I'm looking at players that will potentially break out, and how I sort of run with my strategy, I guess, and what I'm really looking for in players. So before we get into this video, sorry, I'm just clicking between tabs on my other screen. So before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this video. So as you can see here, Footy Wire is one of the websites I use, and I actually want to just flick this across. I've had it over this side for a lot of the BBL content, but now that we're back into the footy scene, let me switch it back over to the more conventional side. So as you can see here with this screen, and if I just do this, there we go, it's a little bit bigger. I have the Essendon Bombers set up, and I also have, let me actually go to the stats center so that I don't give away my whole side. And we go to clubs and then Essendon, and you see here that I've got a couple guys. When I went through early on in the preseason, I sort of went through and sort of favorited a couple guys that I'm sort of looking at for their ability and stuff like that. And if we go to, I think average or price is going to be the best one to look at. You can sort of see Zach Merritt, Darcy Parish, and then we sort of don't have many other guys. And then you got Sardis as well down here as well, which we'll go through. And I don't really like the look of many from Essendon, and this is why I sort of earmarked this as one of the videos that I didn't think I had to do as much research for, and I wanted to sort of show you guys how I do said research, as I think I can do it on the fly with this with Essendon, given that they don't have as many players that I'm really looking at. So anyway, so you see Zach Merritt here, and you see 113 last year, L3 110. So I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking my basic thought with those types of premiums is, are they at the max price, or is there any upside with them? As I'm one of those guys that likes to go for guys that I see as upside. Even in my M1 spot, you saw last year, I think I had M1 and M2. I think I had Bond and Petrarca, and those were guys that I thought, even though they're premiums over 100 already, I felt like they could go to that 110 range, and pretty sure from memory they both did. So that's sort of what I'm looking at. For guys that I want. I've heard a lot of guys, or a lot of other content creators say you got to go for guys that are sort of that, you got to go for one that is a captaincy option, and you'll probably see in my other lines that I've potentially already gone for that as well. But I don't think that's too much of a case, but I think Merritt could be one that you could qualify as a guy that you got to almost start just because of this run here. If we make this, I'll make this a tad bit bigger here. You'll see he's got Hawthorn, Sydney, St Kilda, Port, Western Bulldogs, and also Adelaide, Collingwood. He doesn't really have too bad of a run, to be honest. Collingwood and Sydney are sort of Port as well, but that's gather round, and I'm sure there'll be other guys that you can captain, but like, he's got a captain. The thing about, and I did do a little bit of research with this when I was sort of picking my team, as Merritt's been in and out of my side, is I went back and I looked at Merritt in the, if we go over here, and here, and I looked at Merritt back in 2023, him and Parish for this sake, and I'll show you Parish when we get to this. And their matches, Hawthorn last year 107, and I believe they played again, did they, or did they not? And then I went back and I actually looked at if I quickly just switch this back to this screen here, so I can get another Zach Merritt stats, because I want to get his game by games and give you all of the games against. Here we go. I think this is good now. This will show you what I mean by that. And you'll see here, and I know that this is a long stretch of runs, but he's got 13 games against the Hawks for 28 touches. If I actually go to that in general, you'll see that is, I believe, where is his kicks and handballs there. So 183 kicks is is 549, and then you've got 53 marks, which is another 159, and then you've got another 185 handballs, which again is another 370. And then you'll see as well, and I know that this is crossed 13 games, so they probably doesn't really show his last sort of 4 or 5 games against the Hawks. And then you've got, and I think this might, I can actually do it on this website a lot cleaner, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully they do it on DFS here, that I can show you what I mean by that, but I do know I can go back and show you in general, but I'm pretty sure this will show you the sort of opponents here, and you'll see against Hawthorn, and this is, he averages 100 against them. So even with the tag here, 134 is a max against them. And then we look at their logs, you'll see if I was to, can I toggle this? Is there any way which I can toggle? And then I go here and I can do it like that, I believe. And you'll see round 1 hit in 2023, he put up a 107. 2022, he put up a 94, which isn't even that bad. And then 2021, round 14, he put up an 88. And then the round before that, year before that, in 2021, he put up a 111. And then a 122. So he's got even though he potentially gets tagged, he's still got a low of 88 and a top of 122 in the last sort of 5 years against the Hawks, which sort of shows that he isn't really, I don't think, taggable to the extent. I think they'll more likely tag Darcy Parish here, which we'll get to in a minute. But that's sort of what I'm looking for with Merritt, is the fact that, and that's something I've got to decide basically, is do we think Merritt is going to be a guy that we can run with and look at for captaincy? If we go back to this log here, you'll see he plays Sydney, who the week after that, who he averages 102 against. And if I just quickly show you the last couple games against Sydney, he went a 140 against them, and then in 2022 he went a 128 against them, and then earlier on in 2022 he did go 51, and that was that weird game where Shield got distracted and the whole of Essendon got distracted. So that 51, and he also had only 26% CBA, so it was a really weird game. The year before that he put up a 142. And then the year before that, he put up a 115. So there was one odd game against the Swans, but other than that, he looks good against them as well. And then we just look. Then he's got St Kilda. I think St Kilda he does pretty well against, is it? St Kilda? St Kilda, you can see here 102 against them with 500s and 3 120s in, 11 games. So you can just see the stats sort of stacking up well. He plays really well against Port. You can see here he averages 113 against them. So that's another good run. Then he plays the Eagles, Adelaide and Collingwood. And then you'll see Eagles up there, Collingwood as well up there. And then also the Bulldogs as well, who he averages only 95 against that. And I wonder if that's sort of limited by Libba. But I still think that that's really, really good to see that he's got and I mean, he plays well against pretty much everyone, but I think it's really good to see that he plays some teams that he really does dine out on. So that'll be an interesting watch if some people just pick him to be the captain, but that's sort of the only reason I pick Merritt is I don't think there's much upside. I don't think he can push 120 like some of the other guys, as I do think he does have a bottom out sort of floor that is lower than the guys like Bont and stuff like that, who have a lot more sort of tackling in their game. 5.5, he sort of just racks up the pill generally a lot more. But I do think that there is a way in which Merritt does turn out to be a captain for a lot of people across, or that captaincy option at the M1 across the first 7-8 weeks before we get into upgrade season, where you start having you might even max out your midfield straight away with just primos. So anyway, next up is Parish, who we got to look at. And so there's only really 3 or 4 guys that I'll probably look at across this whole team, as I don't really get too much of a read on the Essendon Bombers, as I just don't think that they're going to be up there this year. And I think a lot of their focus, or a lot of their value, a lot of their changing in value is going to come from their key positions, which don't really have much value in AFL Fantasy. I might look at Ridley and see how he goes, but I think that it's going to be hard to, without doing a lot of further research, to figure out what's the go with Ridley with Mackay back in the side. So Parrish here, you can see he's just pretty much the last 3 years. That's 65, was it? Was in a COVID year, which ramped that up to probably an 80. 65.2 times by the 1.25, and that's up to an 81. So these are the types of things that I would be looking at if I was doing my background research for the other teams that I would have done. As you would have seen, I was reading partially off a script because I'd done the background research. But if you look at this and quickly just get rid of half the things here, don't need that as well. If we go to Parrish, this is merit, but we've got Hawks, Swans, Saints, Port first fours. Hawks, he is, where is he up here? Hawks, he averages, where is it? Let me just run across, 88. They play the Swans. He struggles against the Swans, so probably a reason not to go for him. And then they play the Saints and Port and Western Bulldogs. Where are the Saints here? Just looking through. St Kilda as well as struggles against them. Port Adelaide, where are they? 82.5, and then the Western Bulldogs 85. So if you look at his games against the Hawks, if we go here, you will see in 2023 he got a 107, in 2022 he got a 131, and then the game before that he got an 81. And then I just want to look at Sydney, because Sydney he doesn't seem to play well against. So 2023 he put up a 93. The time before that, he put up an 84, and then the time before that, he put up an 87. So it seems like they have a way to lock down Parrish, the Swans do. So that'll be an interesting one to look further into that, whether that be because of Rowbottom or because of Mills. If it is because of Mills, I don't expect Mills to be back by then. So there is a potential that he does actually profit because Mills is not there. But I would be leaning, again, if I was to pick one of the guys, because I do like their fixture, I do like this sort of run here, and I have sort of looked at it and thought it's one of the easiest in the comps of Hawks, Swans, Saints, Port, Western Bulldogs, Adelaide, Collingwood, and then they have the easy game against the Eagles, Giants, North, Richmond. So they do have a really sort of friendlier run into the bye in round 14. But if there was one guy, especially in the primos, that I'd be going for, it would be Zach Merritt, as he seems to be putting up pretty consistently good numbers. If I go to, where is it? It would be down here, Merritt, and then we can look at his sort of fancy output per year. You'll see here 22-19, 22-16, 22-22, 21-22. So you see very, very consistent games for each year. I think what's that, pretty much probably about 15 games missed since 2016 in 8 years. So yeah, he's really, really consistent in getting out on the park. So that's a good thing. And also you can see with just his numbers, he has averaged 117 before, and I'd wonder if he'll be able to get back to that. I don't think he will be able to get back to that AFL Fantasy average, just because their midfield is now a bigger midfield three in terms of fantasy average. But I'm just wondering if he has that sort of has that consistency to be sort of that 115 guy across the first 7-8 weeks, which we probably need for him to be a captaincy option in the first 7 or 8 weeks, which we've been talking about. So that is one thing that I am looking at with these Essendon guys. And then when you go down this list here, you see Setterfield, Redman, Nick Martin, McGrath, Heppel. Those guys don't really entice me as anyone that can sort of pick up any value. If we now switch over to, where is he? Will Setterfield, and then we'll look at his last year, and you'll see his start. I don't really see there being much value there in terms of output. There wasn't really any injury games that sort of gave him any value, and he's priced at 92. If he was priced at somewhere around that sort of 80 or so, I would be enticed with him, but I think he got away to just a really, really fast start, as you can see here with the 122, 130, 0, and then he went 88, 99, 100, and then that was a really fast start, and then started to slow down. So I wonder if, especially with him just getting out onto the park with major injury concerns, I'm not going to be picking him in the starter squad. Redman, I don't think has much value there. Nick Martin, don't see there being much value there, especially mid-only. McGrath, I had him last year, and probably never again sort of list for him, and I don't think anything opens up for him, to be honest, unless they sort of go to that chippy sort of mark game. Heppel, too old pretty much. And then you go to Ridley here, 81 average last year, priced at 729. I think there could be some value here, but I'm just intrigued on how much value there is. And one thing I'd like that I probably should add is that I think this has been said a little bit, especially on the podcast, is that there's a massive difference between a guy going from 40 to 60 and a guy going 80 to 100. And I think it is more valuable to go for a guy that's going 40 to 60 because there is so much less risk than being stuck with a guy like Ridley or a guy like Andy McGrath last year. Let's look at Andy McGrath's numbers and you'll see exactly what I mean, because I had that suspicion last year that Andy McGrath was going to take it to the next level, and he basically went the same marker. So I think it's a lot easier for a guy to go 40 to 60 than a guy to go 80 to 100. And that's the reason why I think it is a lot more dangerous to go for these guys that you don't really see a role change, and it's more of just an opening up of sort of a position. Like a Ridley, he's now become a third or fourth tall rather than a second because of Mackay coming back there as well, and that sort of opens a little bit up for Redmond, but I don't think there'll be much opening up. So I'd rather go for a change in role like a Hayden Young than I will for a guy like a Ridley to go up. And then you got Ben Hobbs here, 18 games for 77. I just don't think, and this is exactly the same reasoning that I had for Ridley, and something that I think I found across the Supercoach season is going with a logical solution rather than a sort of fancy fantasy type solution, is that I don't think Hobbs, there is a role change necessarily for him, that there is enough. He basically needs to go 100 for me to find value there. And I don't think there is a role change enough for him. And we've seen it a lot across a lot of fantasy midfielders that they don't really have 3 100-point scorers in a whole midfield. Even the likes of what would we see with the midfield of the Bulldogs? You had Bont and Libba and McRae, and I think Bont was the only one that went over 100. We've seen it with the Swans as well. A lot of midfields, they only have 2 guys go over 100 in a midfielder. And I don't think Hobbs will join Merritt, Parrish, and potentially even Setterfield as well, who was on a 92, in going to 100. So that's why I don't want to pick him, and I'd rather pick a more mid-pricer in like a James Jordan around that like 450k, or a Cam McKenzie to go from a 46 to a 70, than a Ben Hobbs to go from a 76 to 100, because that's basically the same thing that we're looking at, and I'd rather go for that as well as an out-and-out premium than 2 guys around that 70 trying to push up towards that 100 marker. Caldwell, 75, don't see there being much value. Gresham, 74, not valued, I don't think. Goldstein, 73, I just don't see there being much value at all there. He's just too old. And sort of I expect a 73 output. Langford, Hines, Shield. Shield's dropped off, and I think he'll even drop off some more, to be honest. Laverde, 67. There might be some value there, but I don't think there'll be too much value. Perkins, 67. Draper, I don't even think will get on the park enough. Dersma, 66. He could push it to 75, but that is not really usable when there's a lot of other midfielders. Like, he's in the same bracket almost as like a Wardlaw or something like that, and I think Wardlaw can massively outdo his average compared to like a Dersma. Durham, Stringer, Kelly, Wright. Sardis is another one that I'm interested about, and this is because he is so discounted at 4 games for 64.4. If we do the 64.3 times by, what's that going to be, 0.84, he's priced at 54, I believe, and him priced at 54, there's already 10 points of shown upside. And if we actually go to his stats, I believe one of them was a sub-affected game. If we look at I believe one of them was 75, 60, 65, 66. And then we go to DFS. I think hopefully this will show his sort of numbers in the VFL, because I think hopefully it does. I'm pretty sure it does. You'll see here in the VFL he went 93, 93, 104, 125, 85, 78, 62, And then that gets us all the way back to his NAB league, where he went nuts as well in that. But I think that just shows that there is upside there. And you can even see it with this 86. I think he did get found out against GWS in round 23 with a 43. But I think that there is a potential for him to get 30% CBAs. And I think he can average that sort of 75 or 80. And especially him having that forward status, I think there's more emphasis on him being of value. And at 476k, you got him. He's also in around that range of James Jordan and then also Cam Mackenzie. So if you get it wrong, you can just flip to the other guy. And there is also a chance that you could just build value in, say, a round zero guy and then just flip to a Sardis or something like that. So I think Sardis could be a really big player if he does get that midfield role. The only problem with that is I think Hobbs is ahead of him, and then you've also got Setterfield, and then you've got the main pigs in there in Merritt and Parrish. So getting that time could be awkward, but also he only really needs 30% or so, 35% to get that sort of 80 or so that he needs. And if he gets an 80, that's plus 26. That is perfect for a mid-pricer. And there's a lot less risk at this 476k. Then if we go back up to, where is he, to what I was saying with even Hobbs at 77, and then also Jordan Ridley 81, and they're a good 200 to 250k more price than the likes of a Sardis. And that's why I just say it is a lot easier to get Sardis and move him around, I think, than to with a Ridley and a Hobbs. You almost feel like you're paying up a lot more, so you're going to almost hold them for another couple rounds just because of you're paying up more for them. Whereas I feel like if Sardis has one bad round, you're just going to flip him off and get him probably down to a rookie and upgrade somewhere else. But or he might be enough cash where he gets up to 600k, you get like a Colby McCurch's done or something like that, and you just upgrade them up to a premium, and then you bring another forward, you get them up to a premium midfielder, and then you bring another forward rookie or something like that on field or something like that. But I think he's just at that price where he just needs a good first 6 weeks, and I think he can do that with if we look at DFS as well, you'll see and we look at this is another thing I look at heavily when I'm doing my sides, when I'm doing my sort of research. If we look at the last sort of 6 weeks or so, and we look at the introduction of Sardis here, 31, 18, 10. So if you look at this sort of last 3 weeks here, you'll see Perkins was getting some midfield minutes. Caldwell was not playing. Hobbs was getting some midfield minutes, but sort of slowly decreased. And also you had Nick Bryan, that's just a ruck. Shield was out. You also had Phillips getting some time. You had Setterfield out as well, which sort of impacts that. So it'll be... This is just so muddled here. You can just see with them having what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys having over 15% CBAs. And I know obviously that they had 1, 2, 3 ruckers that? They had 3 rucks in that setup there. Getting heavy, obviously, CBAs. But it's just going to be interesting to see this sort of how he goes, because I think this North Melbourne game, you can sort of, and also this last game is sort of the best indication of what's actually going to occur. You have here, if I make this a little bit bigger, you've got here 10% for Sardis. You also had Archie Perkins 33. I think Sardis can take Archie Perkins' numbers. As you can see here, Perkins wasn't really used as a midfielder until late. Then you've got here, who's that? Ben Hobbs as well at the 24%. You've got 38% for Brian, but that was just a ruck. 62% for Phillips and Setterfield, and then you had Merritt and Parrish as well playing as well. So I can't get... This is the problem also that I find with Essendon, is it's hard to also get a read on their midfield as well. But I just find that Parrish... Maybe I'm wishful thinking at the moment. Not Parrish, Sardis. But maybe I'm just being a little bit wishful thinking with it. But I do think that he is one to definitely watch, and will be interesting to see, because if he gets that 35% midfield time, he's going to average probably 75, 80. And I think that is definitely a go for just to have early on, and to try and get him raced up to that first sort of premium upgrade as I think he can get up to that sort of 650 or so K range, and then that'll get him in line with a rookie to get up to a premium. And then that pretty much is it for all the guys. I'm not looking at Nate Caddy. I think he is just a straight sort of medium forward, so I don't think there's too much value there, but we'll see if the preseason games, if he pops a massive score, then you almost need to have him on the bench. But there is space on my bench at the moment for him. I think I have Tholstrop there. Caddy can just swap there. It is sort of just a placeholder at the moment, but I'm not too keen on Caddy, even though he is 12% owned, as I just think he is a forward, and probably need to do a little bit more research on him. Jaden Hunter was someone that I think some people have touted a little bit, but obviously went down with an ACL, was it, I believe, a couple of days ago. So yeah, no, not going to see him. And then you've got the Davey boys. Where are they? Alwyn Davey here at 323, and then Jaden Davey at 200. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Archie Roberts could be another one also to look at, just because his position is fancy relevant off the half back, I believe. Him and Luau. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I believe Luau's the half backer. I think they were picked around the 30s or 40s or whatever. Or Archie Roberts might have gone late, I think, from memory. But I believe they're both running backs, I believe. So will be interesting to see their sort of role and see if they get a game. But I don't think they will, just given that they've got Redmond, McGrath, and also I think Ridley sort of and then also as well to add to that, they've got Hines and Heppel in that sort of running back slot. So they're not, I don't think they're begging for sort of a debut from a running back, but one to look at later on in the season if they give them a couple games stretch there. But anyway, that pretty much is the video. A longer one as I sort of go through the process and sort of how I look and sort of how I sort of review teams or preview them. It was probably a little bit disjointed, but that is sort of how these ones go. As I usually spend about an hour and a half at least looking on the players, etc. So if you guys want to go back to that tweet that I had a couple weeks ago, I'll probably re-highlight that before this video goes live. Going back and just giving me a heads up on any players that you want me to look at, especially for the last 4 teams, as I've still got to preview Collingwood, Carlton, Brisbane, and Adelaide. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.